Hello and welcome. I'm Carola Eastwood, for those of you who don't know us yet,
And I'm Chetan, Parkyn.
right, of Human Design for Us All. We are about to produce our monthly broadcast, which we do once a month. It's a complimentary service for everyone in our community, and we want to warmly welcome you, our members who've been with us perhaps for years, and some of you who have maybe just found us and are joining for the first time. Welcome. In this broadcast, we're going to be sharing with you over the next hour the energies as we see them moving, starting on, we're actually going to back up one day because we're broadcasting here on the 24th of August. We're going to back up to the 23rd of August, where we had a third quarter moon and the sun went into Virgo. So we'll talk about that. And then we'll look at the remainder of August, and then we'll look at the entire month of September. The purpose is to support you to have the information that would be valuable for you to know about how the energies are moving in general, the universal energies through the astrological matrix.
And through the human design viewpoint.
Of course. And then and that will allow you to be better informed about what's possible for you, what you can make good use of, what you could be highly successful at certain times, and where to perhaps just keep doing business as usual, et cetera, et cetera. So it's an exciting...
Not too much of the business as usual at the moment. Things are changing too much.
They are changing a lot. And it's an exciting time that we're in. We're just coming from last month's, July's actually, two powerful rock and roll eclipses that have brought a lot of change, which by now, here in late August, we would have become aware of, change in our own lives and change, of course, on the world scene. So let's start at the beginning, shall we?
Okay.
So the sun moved into Virgo, and when it does it, of course, once a year, it stays in each astrological sign for an entire month. So while it's going through the sign of Leo, the sun is the solar force. It's where our energy wants to beam, wants to shine, wants to play. And in the sign of Leo, it's really all about playing. It's about discovery. It's about creativity, creative expression.
Vacation time.
It can be often vacation time for people, a time to recreate, enjoy, but also to create, to be creative in whatever we're doing. So if we're at work during August, the idea is to do it creatively, or during the time when the sun's in Leo. Now the sun has just moved into the sign of Virgo, and as it does that, what Virgo does is it takes the creative ideas and input that got generated while the sun was going through Leo, and it grounds them, it brings them down to earth, and it says, all right, let's just see what's worth implementing here, what has some lasting value, and how can we go about working with this? What's step 1, 2, and 3? So Virgo gets everything lined up. It's about refinement, refining that creativity, refining your new ideas, refining perhaps your ideas about your next steps in life.
So just looking at where we are in space and time at this moment, from the human design perspective, I'd like to just kind of lay down the foundation, as it were, of the outer planets, where they are, the kind of message they're giving to the whole of humanity at the moment. The outer planets are the ones that move very, very slowly. And so they stay in a place, we might say they're generational planets, they stay in a place for a long time, and they give quite a profound influence during that time. So starting with Pluto, Pluto is right out, long way away from us, but in human design, we always see it as a very essential presence in that it's the nature of transformation. And right at this moment in time, it's in gateway number 61, which is a gateway we find in the crown center in the human design chart, the gateway of inner truth. And it's in the first line at the moment, and it's second time it's been in this line. It's going backwards through it at the moment, apparent viewing from planet Earth. It will turn and go forward through this line again. And it's basically saying to us, look beyond the obvious. You know, we've all been told all kinds of stories about what life is and what's supposed to go on here, and, you know, systems and we're watching a lot of systems break down at the present moment in time. And so we're being given this opportunity to recognize, you know, having counted on so many things in our lives right at this moment in time, you know, what is our personal truth? Like when we look into something, what's the sensation that we get? Does it resonate with us? The planet Neptune is in gateway number 22, which is the gateway of grace. Now, grace is something that we can say exists on a physical level. We also have this sensation it's something of a more spiritual quality as well, that we can be graced in our lives. In the human design matrix, this is in gateway number 22, which is the gateway of possible openings. Openings that we might not always be aware of that are there for us. So in a sense, we're being asked to kind of step through things that may previously have been blockages for us, where we've only seen a brick wall, and now all of a sudden there's a bit of a gateway. The planet Uranus is in gateway number 27, which is a gateway of nurturing and nourishing. And what it's being offered here for us is just to have a look in our lives. Are we nourishing ourselves? How are we nourishing ourselves? Now, I'm not just talking about diet. I'm talking about, you know, how we spend our day, what the company is that we keep, where we're putting our energies and efforts. Is it a nourishing environment for us? And if not, what do we need to do to rearrange that? The planet Saturn also is in gateway number 38 at the moment, and the 38 is this gateway, we call it opposition. And it's basically saying to us, you know, in terms of how we look into our lives, are the things that really disturb us? Like, are we seeing things in life that are qualitative or represent high human values or not? And we're being asked to re-examine that at the moment. There's a lot of energy with the Sun, Venus, and Mars are all in the same part of the sky together at the moment. They're in gateway number 59. These planets move a lot faster, but the energy of this particular moment in time now is intimacy. How do we relate to people around us? You know, are we loving in our interactions with people? Are we seeing that we can make connections in all kinds of different ways? So great time to be watching our social attitudes in a way, how we engage with the world around us.
So as we open up this last week or so of August, shine some light on the energies. Chetan, you were just talking about the fact that the Sun and Venus and Mars all together very tightly in the same actual gate, gate 59, that gate of intimacy, or that movement towards intimacy, right? They're, astrologically speaking, they're in the very early degrees of Virgo, 0, 2 degrees, 3 degrees of Virgo, very tight conjunction. And what's phenomenal about this is that, you know, in terms of the idea of the Sun going into Virgo, which is to refine all the creativity that comes out of the Sun in Leo, we've got help because the Sun is it's not the only force working with this. We've also got Venus, we've also got Mars working with us. Mars is our work in the world. It's what we do to make a living. It's working to our highest purpose and sharing our highest gifts in the world. And Venus is our values. It's what we love. It's what we treasure. It's what we enjoy. It's what makes life beautiful and enjoyable. And then, of course, the Sun is the solar force. It's like the impetus to be, to do, to express. So we've generated all these ideas, all this creative flow, and now it's in the cauldron, so to speak. It's needing to get refined and really worked with. So what do we have in order to support that? Well, the planet Mercury, which is the planet of communication, has been in the sign of Leo, still is, a highly creative sign. So the creative ideas are still coming. It's been in this triangle with Jupiter in its home sign of Sagittarius. Jupiter is growth. And in Sagittarius, it's shoot for the moon. You know, as a matter of fact, let's go to the moon. So it's really shooting high and aiming for a better future, a better possibility, a better outcome. So we're looking to improve, refine, and grow our presence in the world, our power in the world, our influence in the world, as well as our abilities. And there's a lot in the energy that's supporting us to do that at this point in time. as the Sun and Venus and Mars move together in early Virgo, they're moving into a triangle with the planet Uranus. And you're going to hear about this more because that's going to move us into a mystical triangle, what astrologers call a mystical triangle, which we're going to talk more. Do you want me to introduce it now or wait till we get
I really wanted you,
wait till we get there, right?
I really wanted you to tell us about the mystical rectangle we're getting into.
What I call it, a mystical triangle?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
but there is a mystical triangle too at the moment. So
that's right. That's what I was looking at. Okay. So there's a grand trine, we call that.
Yeah.
Right? Grand trine, which is fleeting. Is not going to be there for long. And then we move into a mystical rectangle. So are we interested to know about
Absolutely.
that?
Well, I think we were looking at this and we were saying it starts around the end of the month, around August the 30th.
Yeah. Yeah, it comes in really strongly at that point. It actually gets there a little before then, the next few days. But by August the 30th, the mystical rectangle is set.
Well, don't we all want to hear about something really mystical? You know, especially in these times. And this is an extraordinary setup, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, astrologers work with lots of different aspects and groups of aspects. And this is one of them, but it's called the mystical rectangle because it generally shows a circumstance or set of energetics and a set of possibilities, you know, the movement of the players, the people, the right time, the right opportunities, everything's sort of lining up so that it feels like it has divine providence behind it. And in a way, I mean, certainly it does. So we're having an opportunity to calibrate our energy with the mystical, with the higher frequencies, with what's actually possible for us. And we have an enormous amount of resources at our disposal with all of these energies available in this mystical rectangle. The energy for refinement, for creativity, the energy coming from the planet Uranus, which has to do with the awakener to higher states of consciousness. So the possibility of breaking out of the sort of going through life in the third dimensional plane with blinders on and just one foot ahead of the other and looking up into the sky and saying, wait, what's possible? What's coming? What could I do more, better? What could I do bigger? What could I listen to that would be a higher truth? And how can I follow that? So we're getting that high input from universal wisdom. Neptune, the planet of higher spirituality, is involved in this mystical rectangle. It's bringing the vision, the possibility, so we can see it right before us. This is what we can experience. This is what we can step into. This is what I was going to say we can become, but it's not that we become that spirit essence that we are. It's that we step into what we already are, but this is what we can remember and begin to express more of. So we all are an eternal soul, evolving through a physical form in this physical dimensional plane, having our experiences and learning and growing. But we're at a point in the evolution of humanity in which we're being called as citizens of planet Earth, as one family, the Earth family. We're being called to step up, to kind of grow up in a way and recognize that, wait a minute, we're the creators here. So we co-create with spirit. And we put creative forces in motion. So everything that's been created so far, all the circumstances that we love, the things we appreciate and value, as well as the things that we find highly challenging or even completely unacceptable, like starvation and, you know, things that are just unheard of in highly developed star systems, war. Right? You know, yeah, wars.
Famine.
I mean, just...
Yeah. Disease.
Right.
Yeah.
Which could all 100% be avoided by humanity coming together and working as a whole to create a life and an experience in life that is creative, that is fulfilling, that benefits everyone. And that's essentially what we're moving to. I know it might not look like it right now, but as this mystical rectangle comes in and really takes root, in the latter part of April, and it goes through almost all of September, doesn't it? We looked
Yeah,
at that.
well, halfway through September, it kind of weakens a little bit.
Yeah.
We saw that.
But there's other, that's because Venus moves out, but the other planets are still in there firmly for a while. So it's almost the entire month of September.
It's a very, very powerful time. But
yeah.
It's almost to say, you know, it's to remind us that the dark ages are receding. And, you know, if we're still attached to these things, we have to let go of them. Like all of these qualities that do not exist in our high consciousness society have to be reckoned with.
So we're looking at, an energy that's moving us as we enter into September, into this potential for much higher alignment with what we truly came here to do, through listening to the voice of our spirit essence, ideally through following our truth, using our human design to always identify our truth and to make the right decisions for ourselves, get ourselves on the right path, the path really we're meant to be on in this lifetime, which is the path that's going to be the most fulfilling for us. So that's the energy as it's moving us right now, and it's fairly gentle. That there's only one real challenge to it all. It's from Jupiter, and how challenging can Jupiter be? It's just about, come on, folks, it's time to move this, time to, whatever it is that you see that you need to change, do differently, stretch beyond, it's time to actually make that leap now. And we're seeing that particular aspect very strongly here, right at the end of August as we turn into September, the first few days of September.
So from the human design perspective, we don't get to see things like mystical rectangles, but I can certainly pick up on what Carol is talking about here, because, human design, we have to look at other things to find these qualities. And the nature of ending this month is we have a new moon, and the new moon falls when the sun and the moon together are in gateway number 40. And in human design, gateway number 40 is the gateway of, what can I say? We call it deliverance. It's about clarifying things in life that really have value for you. That's extending from also what has value for you, what has value in the circumstances around you, whether that's your work, whether that's your family, whether that's your living situation. So I literally say this new moon is all about putting a stake in the ground and saying, this is me, this is what I stand for. This is my truth. And anything that doesn't fit within this is questionable, and it's going to start receding from my life. So this new moon, very, very powerful. Like, it's backed up, as Carol says, Venus and Mars are right together with the sun at this moment in time. So,
and Mercury.
what can we say about, Venus energy is our yin nature, it's our feminine side, it's who and what we draw to us, it's love, it's beauty, it's wealth, it's all of these things. Mars is the more outgoing male energy, the kind of pushing away things. I'm busy doing stuff, bringing the bread home or whatever it is. And so Venus and Mars together like this is definitely a balance in this arena. Mercury on board as well, close by, how we're expressing ourselves. And so all of this energy in this new moon placement of, this is what I stand for. And this energy is going to stay with us for quite a while from this new moon. And so I'm just kind of correlating a little bit with what you were talking about in terms of this mystical rectangle.
Yeah.
That whether we like it or not, all of us are going to have to step up to recognize ourselves as a pure consciousness here in human form, to recognize that our presence here is absolutely essential for whatever it is that's going to come forward from now. And the more clear we can be in ourselves and more in accord with our own lives, the greater effect we're going to have in this rising of consciousness in this time.
So that's the new moon. That happens on the 30th of August at 6 degrees of Virgo, with, of course, Mercury on one side of it, Venus and Mars on the other side. Very powerful sun moon together in that part of the sky. The new moon sets the stage for the next 30 days. So it's sort of the beginning of a new cycle of energy. And the cycle of energy moves from the new moon, builds up to the first quarter, moon, which we'll have September 5th. And then, of course, it's all building up and gathering momentum towards the full moon, which is the point, ideally, of maximum expression for whatever we've been working on in this 2 weeks. So at the new moon, it's fairly nascent, but the realization's coming. By the time we get to the first quarter in the first week of September, specifically the 5th of September, first quarter moon, the moon's gone into Sagittarius, and it's forming, a first quarter is always about a right angle. So it's forming a right angle to the sun, but it's doing it with the planet Jupiter. So it joined Jupiter in Sagittarius, and it's forming a right angle. A right angle always brings a challenge. The challenge is, all right, you see what needs to be refined, you see what needs to be improved, you see how to get yourself aligned. Now, actually, are you going to sit around thinking about it and planning about it only, or are you going to take action? Are you going to put something in motion? Are you going to do something with this, right? So that's that first quarter. It's the challenge to get off our butts and do something. Get it produced, get it written, get it spoken, get it proposed, or whatever it is that new step for you. But put it into motion, and this is your time to really begin doing that if you haven't already. And then just let that momentum build here from September 5th, the first quarter, on until the full moon, when you should bring it to some form of creation. Like, okay, I've brought this into being. So whatever that would be that you're working on, you want to see it flowering and coming to get expressed by the time of the full moon in the middle of September, a little bit before the middle of September.
So I'm going to add a little nuance to this as we're entering into the month of September. We move into this very interesting life theme that we call migration. And it involves very much the community around you, the people around you, the people that you hold most dear, where you're putting your energy in your life. So I'm saying the new moon is all about, just really delineating for yourself, this is what I stand for, this is what has value for me, this is what I want to put my life's energies towards, this has consequence for me. And then around the 3rd, 4th, 5th of the month, we have this particular life theme, which is basically saying it gives us an opportunity to review, where I'm committing myself, who's involved in my life, how meaningful is it to me? Am I in the right community? Am I living in the right place? Am I living in a place that really suits me, that empowers me, that supports me in my life? And so very often what can happen when this particular configuration comes around is all of a sudden we up anchor and we put our attention to something else altogether. That we change community, that we put more attention into certain people that perhaps we've been avoiding before, and we lessen our attention on those people that we've been giving a lot of energy to. So it's just one of those moments in time where we have this shift in perspective. Happens a couple of times a year. And right after this, as the month gets going, we move into this life theme we call consciousness. And in consciousness, we have to realize not everything is as it's been explained to us, that we have our own access to really contemplate and figure out what this world's all about. So let's just say the first quality as we enter into September is to recognize, what really has value for you. And then to start recognizing what doesn't have so much value for me, and maybe move those things aside. And then it opens up the space to bringing about a whole new quality into your life at that time. New people, new situations, new environments. So it's a very interesting opening to the month of September here. There's this mystical rectangle playing in the background, which is inviting us to kind of expand our repertoire a little bit, to open up to other possibilities. And there's this tremendous presence in the outer planets that are encouraging us to step up in our game, to really, more than ever before, trust who we are as an individual.
Along with this ability to really see clearly what needs to happen, to be very much tuned into it at a level of high truth, which is I mean, it's available to all of us. And especially if you've been doing your work, your meditation, you've developed your sincerity, and you're not off, sort of trying to prove your worth to the world, or, spinning your wheels like that. And but you're sincerely bringing your gifts into the world, then you should see this as a time of reaping a lot of the benefit from all that you've been sowing for a long, long time. So following this, so once we have the first quarter moon, we've got energy shifting. Kind of it's like a turning point. It's like, all right, you've sort of come out of your house, and you've taken the car out of the garage, you've entered the street, and then you're entering into the main intersection that's going to take you where you want to go. So that's that turn at that first quarter moon. It's like, all right, we're on path now. So any refinement that's needed is going to happen there. What kind of refinement would be called for? Well, are you seeing clearly? Are there some things you aren't seeing clearly? That's maybe a better way to ask that.
Are you dusting off your glasses and just having another look at things?
Yeah, because Venus has been opposing Neptune. It started doing that on around September 9, 10, 11, 12. It's still doing it here on the 13th, which is the first quarter. And as it's opposing Neptune, it's
we're having the full moon on the 13th.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were saying the first quarter. So it's the full moon.
I know, but I was still talking about the first quarter, because I'm talking about this build up
to the full moon.
Yeah, I know. I'm not quite to the full moon yet.
Fair enough.
I'll get there.
Sure you will.
Okay. So we're having this build up to recognizing what is the refinement, what's the breakthrough that needs to happen, and the refinement that needs to happen, so that I can start working on it and building something out of this, make something happen. That's the first quarter. Remember, that starts the action if it hasn't already begun. So it's the impetus. And in that impetus, what we're looking at is there something that we've missed, or something we haven't seen clearly, something that we need to understand, or just look at with more objectivity, and get our desires and our wants out of the way, so that we can see clearly what our higher self truly has in store. What is the actual creation? And this time of refining happens at the first quarter, and then we move from the first quarter in that first part of September towards the full moon, called the harvest moon in the northern hemisphere. It's a time in which the light is just beginning to fade. We've had the summer solstice, the longest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, and the entire summer expression with these long days. And now we're beginning to bring in all of that we've experienced and gather the gems from it all, right? And put that to some usefulness. So at this full moon, at this harvest full moon, we've got the moon in Pisces, opposite 21 degrees opposite the sun in Virgo, and we still have Mars, Sun, Venus, and Mercury in Virgo. Although this will be the last day of that big stellium of planets, we still have them for this full moon. So what are we seeing that is the new evolution of the way that we will bring ourselves and our gifts into the world, and what needs to be refined? So the question starting to get asked, what needs to be refined in our way of being in the world, and way of relating with others, and way of using resources that somehow has not been aligned with our higher vision or our highest truth, and how can we get into that kind of alignment? So I'm talking about the fact that fairly soon Mercury and Venus together in the same degree of the zodiac are going to be moving into the sign of Libra, and as they do that, following this full moon, just following it, they're going to be opposing the the large asteroid body that functions more like a planet called Chiron. Chiron in the early degrees of Aries. Chiron is the planet that awakens us to our higher self. It's the planet that helps us to align the personality vehicle with the soul essence or the higher self. So that process of alignment is going to be available to us. We don't have to do it because we have free will, right? But it's available to us if that's how we want to develop a bit of our energy. So for those of us on the path of greater and greater awareness, awakening, and therefore greater responsibility for the well-being of the evolution of planet Earth, this time is really for us to get crystal clear about where, who, how, when, what are we going to be doing next.
So doing a little catch up with human design here as we got into September, I'm always interested to see, you know, in the human design chart, we get certain channels. There are 36 of these different channels. And as the planet keeps moving, the various planets keep moving, every now and again, we get a whole channel that's colored in, defined, and available to all of us for quite a long period of time. So from the 3rd of September to up to the 13th of September, all of us, by transit, are getting a channel of 6447, which is one of these channels up in the mind center. It's very much right brain. So right brain, very much to do with our intuitive side. It's to do with our experiential side. What are the experiences that we have, and what do the experiences actually mean to us? What are the experiences that we open up to, that we allow ourselves to have? And the whole thing about going through an experience in the end is, am I fulfilled? Was this a worthwhile experience? This is an experience that generated some stories for me to tell. Is this an experience that gave me something to feel a sense of upliftment in my life? And so we're all going to get this channel, this right brain channel, and whether this channel's working or not for us is, do things start making more sense for us? So, you know, all of us have launched into all kinds of experiences during our lives. And it could be a lot of these things, you know, I can't remember why I did this, or what was the outcome, you know, what was the point of all this? And, you know, why am I involved in certain things in my life right now? I can't quite tell. How did I get into it in the first place? And the thing about this channel is, you know, those moments when the light bulb goes on and all of a sudden, oh, now I get it. You know, like you suddenly get the punchline to a joke, and it's like the joke that was told some time ago. And all of a sudden you realize, and then maybe you think back to, you know, why did I get into this career? And why did I get involved in this partnership? And why did I start working at this particular place? And, you know, and then all of a sudden you get the realization, I'm either totally on track with it all, or I'm totally off track with it all. And so really it's a time for all of us to recognize, you know, am I really being fulfilled in this lifetime? Am I engaging in this life that really brings me fulfillment? So the coming of this full moon, we have the sun in gate 47, and opposite is gateway number 22. Now, you might have remembered me saying about gate 22 a little earlier on. That's where Neptune is sitting at the moment. So in a sense, this full moon, we're not just getting a full moon, we're getting a full Neptune as well. So the moon's energy is all about our feeling memories and our intuitive memories and stuff. And the Neptune energy, where the sun is shining all its rays on Neptune, way out there in our solar system, is the gateway of grace. And this possibility of opening up into other aspects of life that we haven't really considered before, that we haven't thought were available to us because we've been stuck in the dark age principle. You know, I can't make a move on anything. I don't have access to my free will. So I'm saying this full moon is relevant for all of us, that there's a possibility of seeing something on a very, very different way. So I'm just going to read to you the lines of the 22 with the 5th line. It's called Inner Beauty, remembering the importance of your own true nature. So this harvest moon, when we're going to have these downloads, these remembrances, these recognitions, or these realizations, whether we're on a track that appeals to us, that's bringing us fulfillment or not, remembering the importance of your own true nature. You know, this entering into this age of Aquarius, it's all about doing whatever is needed to find our truth. Perfect expression of consciousness in human form. What is our truth? What resonates deeply within us? And so we're being given this great opportunity to remember.
Beautifully said. So let's move to the third quarter moon. That's always an exciting time because it's a time when, you know, the rubber hits the road, or let's say that the rubber hit the road at the full moon, but we get to see what we've been able to accomplish. So by now, you know, the full moon, the ideas have come to fruition. The action that's needed is being ideally is being activated. It's being done. Whatever changes, realizations, new things that we're working on or doing or launching have happened, or ideally, if they haven't happened by the third quarter, they must happen. Or the whole project and idea will just lose energy. And we've all experienced that, I'm sure, some brand new idea that we're all buzzed about, and if we don't take action on it, it just loses energy and we lose it. Maybe it never comes back around. So if there's something really calling you, go for it. That's what this is saying. What happens at the third quarter moon, and this doesn't always happen at a third quarter moon this time of year, but the sun does enter into the sign of Libra on the 23rd of September, just a couple days after the third quarter moon. And early in the morning on the 23rd of September, early in the morning we say Pacific time, that is the beginning now of the autumnal equinox. Well, in the northern hemisphere, anyway, it would be the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere, but it's a big turning point either way. Whether we're north or south of the equator, we're going to experience a big turning point at this point in time. So what is it that happens at the equinox? It's a point, well, first of all, it's a point where the days and nights are of equal length, and ideally, you know, the most balanced. But also, if you look at it traditionally, for the northern hemisphere, it's been the harvest time. It's been the time of reaping the fruits of one's labor, which goes along with the sun being in Virgo. It's like there's been a lot of effort all through the energy from Gemini on, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and then into Virgo, where Virgo is now gathering the fruits of all that labor and refining it and you know, packaging it, sort of putting it to some use. And that's been going on all of September. And you were right, the mystical rectangle is weakened by now, so it's moving out by now. We still have some of the planets in the same position, but the fourth leg of it has moved out. So whatever the message from the universe was for us during this mystical rectangle has been delivered by now, by even, you know, say September 20th or so.
And you're done. Saying the consequence of this mystical rectangle, it takes a long time for it actually to settle into our reality.
Well, it for most of us it does, because it's exposing us to a whole new set of possibilities. And it's calling us into a new arena of expression or of understanding. It's taking us deeper, so to speak. So for those of us who, you know, want to fight that or struggle with it or be afraid of it or whatever, that's what slows it down.
Any attempt at regression.
Yeah, or just unwillingness to go forward with it. You know, it takes courage. I mean, I think life on Earth takes courage. It's a scary place.
How did you come to that conclusion?
All you have to do is get on one of the freeways. It's like, help. But, you know, I mean, and life is uncertain. I mean, you know, things can be going along a certain way for ourselves, and all of a sudden, everything changes like black and white. we know, we've heard this, it's happened to many people that we know of. Sometimes it happens to us where life just takes a very radical turn. I'm not suggesting that that'll be what's happening at this time. I don't see that in the energies, but there is a big internal shift that is really calling us, and it's got our names on it. So when I say our names, I mean the people who are waking up in consciousness, who are working with the tools of consciousness to further awaken themselves, to learn entirely new ways of being and doing things, entirely new ways of relating. I mean, a big door opened for us. We moved into the age of Aquarius. If we weren't noticing that happened, but it did, out of the age of Pisces, where we've been for the last 2,000 something years. Right, so out of the age of belief and relying on the demagogue, the priest, the leader of the clan, the
chief
of the tribe, whatever, to direct our lives, and even from relying on the normal pathways that had been built in society to be those pathways that we could comfortably fit ourselves into, that's not happening anymore. Our lives and our jobs and our technology is changing more and more rapidly than ever. And so what needs to happen? We need to accelerate in our consciousness and our awareness. And what's that going to take? It's going to take millions of us who are willing to come to planet Earth at this time and say, I will participate. I will help with this awakening. I will help with turning the wheel into the age of Aquarius, birthing the age of light. And that's really what we're up to right now. Why does it look like such chaos? Because, birth is messy. It's very messy. And we're in it now. So what can we do? What can we trust? What can we believe in? I mean, that's some of the questions that are being asked of us while we've had this mystical rectangle. And as we continue to integrate what we've learned from it, is, why am I even here? And what contribution am I here to make? And how can I best do that? And at the same time, what we want to encourage you to do is also ask the question, and how can I have fun doing it? How can I enjoy my life every day of my life?
Celebrate.
And that's what we've discovered is that even celebrate the simple things. Yeah. Celebrate the beauty all around you. Notice it. The puffy clouds in the sky, or the little birds singing outside your window, or whatever the small little things. Cultivate within yourself an appreciation for beauty and appreciation for love. And you will be working exactly with the planets as they're lined up right now, if you do that. Jupiter in this challenge with Neptune saying, all right, we've got the vision. We've had whatever awakening spiritually that, was possible for us so far. There's more to come perhaps. But are we integrated, or are we just finding it interesting, like an interesting story we read? Or are we actually living it, grounding it, bringing it in, making it useful?
So virtual as opposed to reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's that turn happening here at the third quarter moon and as the sun enters the sign of Libra.
I'm always fascinated by this turning of the sun into Libra. I can mark back throughout my life from earliest memories, 20th through the 24th of September, there's always going to be some kind of a shift going on. And it, apart from anything else, it's a changing of the seasons. It's when the sun sits It sits in the lower edge of the, what does it do? It's crossing the equator.
It's crossing the, right.
It's crossing the equator.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an equal balance time.
So it's coming from its highest zenith that happened at the summer
Yeah.
solstice, and then coming into the equinox where the days and nights equal out.
So the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn, it's making that shift over, and it's right over the equator. So, it's a kind of balancing point in time. And what is going on in that time is we go into this life theme that we call the vessel of love. And, despite everything that's going on the planet here, love is the only game in town. It's the nature of this universe. It is love. And we can witness extraordinarily crazy, mean, and horrible things happening within all of this. But still, it is our experience that even in a most drastic challenge, we can still remember love for our life around us. So just a reminder, we enter into this Libra in astrology. We're in the 46th, the sun is in the 46th gateway in human design. And the 46 is the gateway of, well, from the Chinese, it's called pushing upward into heaven. Beautiful description. And the image is a little shoot breaking through the soil, coming up, pushing upward into heaven. We devolve that into appreciation of the physical form, because the physical form is what carries us through our life, carries our consciousness. And so I always see, the sun going into the 46 and having this time, it's reminding us to really look after the physical, look after the body, look after the temple that carries us through life. And as Carola says, for goodness sake, enjoy everywhere that this temple can take you. All the different adventures we go into, the beauty of nature around us. But I see this as kind of an opening time to perhaps great time to detox, great time to review, I've said already, how are we nourishing ourselves, but again, to have another review of that. Is my body really enjoying what I'm giving it? And to open up maybe 2 or 3 weeks of cleansing and, recultivating one's diet, and just looking after the body, like really get a massage, really look after it in this time. And to see that amazing things can happen when we slow down for a little bit and look after the physical. You see, at the moment as well, opposite the sun this week, there's an opposition to this asteroid we were talking about, Chiron. And Chiron in gateway number 25, which is the gateway of innocence. It's actually the gateway that opens up for us to be able to recognize who we really are, at the core of things, in our absolute innocent nature, without all the complications and the things we've been told and all this knowledge we've derived in life. What is our real knowing? And so I just say this week, from around the 20th, just really focus on that possibility of healing the temple, remembering how to be grateful for this life, perhaps, that we are given this extraordinary experience.
So we'll of course, we're going to take you through the remainder of September, but I want to remind you, we'll be back with you broadcasting again on September 21st. So right as we head up to that equinox, we'll be back with you again and take you more deeply through this time. But once we have that third quarter moon, the turn, the sun leaving Virgo, going into the sign of Libra, then we're going to build up towards a new moon, the new moon in Libra, 5 degrees of Libra. So what's happened over the past week to 10 days is that the energy's really begun to shift. The high creativity of those summer months going into the refinement of the early of the late summer, let's say, and then the beginning of the fall season, or the turn of the seasons, and where we begin to turn our attention in a different way. In the northern hemisphere, it's the time of the harvest, of reaping everything that we've sown, right, and gathering it all in, sort of counting our nuts, right, counting our little squirrels, counting our nuts, right. But seeing that we have the provisions that we need for the winter. But it's more than that. But essentially, it's a bit of that sort of energy that we're in right now. It's the gathering of the resources. And as we do that, Venus and Mercury, after having been in these amazing flowing energies through the late part of the summer, now have entered into a challenging energy. And this actually started back at the third quarter moon, and as the sun went into Libra, Venus and Mercury both in a challenging aspect with Saturn and Pluto. So essentially what's that saying is that because they're in the sign of Libra, we're talking about our values, and we're talking about our relationships. So we're taking another really deep look at how is it that our personal love relationships, because that's the kind of relationships we're talking about, are flourishing. Are they flourishing? Are we giving them any energy? Are we just simply taking them for granted? Are we nurturing and supporting our loved ones? Are we being nurtured and supported, or are we just sort of forgetting that that needs to happen too? Right? I'm speaking specifically to the women in the group. Are we valuing ourselves enough, as much as we should be valuing ourselves? Do we know that we're precious? Do we know that we're needed? Do we know that our voice matters? So these are the awarenesses that we can come into at the same time that we have this challenge from Saturn and Pluto saying, let go of the way that you've seen yourself. Let go of the way the world sees you and discover, how do you see yourself if you just look with the eyes of an angel, with the innocent eyes of a child? How do you see yourself then? Who are you really? What are you about now in life? And Venus and Mercury together in Libra also forming a sextile with Jupiter, which is this planet of growth and well-being and new discovery. This Jupiter wants to forge ahead into new possibilities. So how else can we be? How else can we show up in our home life, in our relationship life, in our society, in our cultural or religious cultural kind of groups, or our spiritual groups? What is it that we bring that's of value? And I think that's really the deep question that we'll be asking and seeking to answer at this time. There's some amazing creative energies about to build up as well as we go into the end of September. We basically gonna end the month of September on a new moon. The new moon on the 28th of September, that's a Saturday. So we'll be getting geared up for a whole new energy that'll start us out for the month of October.
So just catching that one, this new moon, always interesting to see where in the sky it happens, how do the sun and moon come together, and exactly out of the 384 different lines in the I Ching, where does this take place? And this particular new moon is happening in gateway number 18. And gateway number 18 is the gateway, it's, in the translation with the Chinese, it's work on what has been spoiled by the early life influences. It's the gateway of conditioning. It's the gateway of improving. And it's impersonal. And yet anyone that has the 18 tends to take it very personally. And so it's really a gateway that has a lot of puzzles about it. Now, part of the understanding of human design involves the I Ching. And over 20 years, I spent writing my version of the I Ching for the human design. And there were certain lines that I couldn't get them right away. I had to sit with them. I had to write them and rewrite them and ask about them and find somebody who had the line and ask what their experience was around this line. And some of them just puzzled me forever. And particularly the lines in gateway number 18, what is conditioning? Where does it come from? How do we get into this space? How do we allow others to convince us that there was something wrong with us? And so we took on something that was not appropriate for us or not in our truth. And so this new moon is taking place in gateway number 18, this gateway I call improving, finding remedy. And it's in the second line. And in particular, this line took me forever to work out what it was. And finally, this is what I came to. I call the second line honoring the goddess. Instilled fears involving the power of the feminine. So you were just talking about, do women really acknowledge how absolutely extraordinary they are? And that this is a Mother Earth, and there is a Mother Moon, and there is Mother Venus out there, and the whole neighborhood here is feminine. And somehow or other, it has come about through some strange path that the lives of most women have been repressed and suppressed. And so I'm just saying about this particular new moon, it's a powerful time. I would say, we're talking Libra, we're talking where the balances are made, and this new moon taking place in this line I'm calling honoring the goddess, honoring the power of the feminine intelligence. And I'm going to say
that's the highest version of that line, right?
It is.
Because the lower frequency is dishonoring.
Right.
Right.
I'm just saying this is a potential turning point for the power of the feminine. And I'm not saying women have to start behaving like men. Please don't. Please acknowledge your own feminine intelligence and help all of us bring this planet back to a balance so we can move into this higher intelligence, this higher consciousness time. So that's how I see that new moon. It's a very, very powerful time, and so much possibility of literally swinging a change in attitude altogether.
Well, and on that note, which I think is a very beautiful note to leave this, because the message really of the entire month distilled right there in what you had to say, Chetan. So we will wrap up with our look at the month. As we shared with you, we do this every month. For those of you who are just joining us, you're most welcome to come every month and hear about the energies and use it in a way to begin to see how it all fits for you and how it works for you. And if you'd like more support than that, all you need to do is log in, humandesignforusall.com, and start your journey with us by getting your free report. And then go ahead and get your comprehensive report, start reading about it, get the books. Chetan wrote the first 2 books. They're just brilliant classics. And our latest book on the destinies, your destiny path, which is compelling. Those are some ways to begin your exploration of human design. Start delving into it. It's picked up a lot of popularity over the past, 5 years or so. It's really begun to grow. I remember when we first started introducing to human design, well, Chetan wrote the book and it introduced it to the world. And then we'd go to seminars and people would say, well, what is human design? Nobody knew what it was. And nowadays, everywhere we go, oh yeah, people know human design. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. Oh yeah, I know somebody who had a reading or something, So what we'd like to encourage you to do is go a little deeper and really get to know your design. Start working with it, start using it, because that's how you get the benefit that you can derive from it, which is helping you to more quickly realign back with your authentic nature, which puts you in tune with your spirit essence.
Human design is really a self-awareness tool, and it's absolutely for these times. So please receive our encouragement and go ahead, find out your design.
All right, we'll see you back here again next month. Many blessings.
Bye for now.